Hello there, Voltage Modular people, PoohBear here and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to do a technical overview of the keyboard play checker. The keyboard play checker has two purposes. One is like what I refer to as presentation mode, what it's in at the moment, but it's actually called demo on the button because the word presentation is obviously a very, very large word to fit inside such a small button. And the whole purpose, obviously, of the presentation mode is when I'm doing my videos or saying, rather than me keep reaching across and sort of dragging my keyboard down and saying, oh, look, I'm going to play some notes on my keyboard, boom, 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 I can obviously just play them and you'll be able to see what's actually happening on the screen. The other mode is the play checker mode. So in the play checker mode, when I sort of hit some keys, it would actually tell me the order I've actually played them in. So here we go. That has been the first one because it's 0 milliseconds. And these two actually have it at 6 milliseconds. So it's just six milliseconds after me hitting that first key. And then I've got my velocities. And as you can see, my velocities were actually quite close. So I'm actually playing, I would say, that keyboard quite stable. But if I was obviously played some different chords, not doing too bad actually. I can be sloppy. Maybe I should play something a little bit more sloppier. There we go. I rolled my hand. So you can see that this was actually this last note played quite a lot longer after the very first note. But when I actually view these results, I tend to go for the middle note and say, actually, this is one I played early and this was the one I played later. So that's how I tend to view it. And then obviously we can view the velocity. And I say in the presentation mode, we've got this simple presentation mode. So what have we got here in the actual control panel? We have what I've referred to as my PoohBear network, and this has got nothing to do with MIDI channels at all. You've got 8 different channels here, and the whole purpose of the PoohBear network is we can string these together, which you saw, and we can do again, and we don't have to wire them all up. We just wire one up. I have one MIDI input. We can change the ones to different octave. If they're all in the same channel, they're going to receive the same MIDI and obviously display the MIDI correctly to the octave range they're actually playing. At the moment, this is actually in auto mode. When it's in auto mode, it doesn't matter where I'm playing on the keyboard. You know, I could be right up the scales, right down the bottom. It will fit it into this sort of 12 note range. But obviously, if I was to play that D there, okay, so that's down there. Now I'm going to play a key lower down. Well, of course, it's going to display it higher up on this little kind of range. But what I can do, as I said, I can actually push this up, say, into the octave. So I know this happens to be octave number 5. This up here is octave number 6, and you can see nothing's happening. If I go into octave number 6 and play it, there's my key. And of course, and I'll quickly demonstrate, I've got obviously some numbers there. If I was to go down into this one here, it's going to sort of show me what I've actually, the numbers as well. So it's actually remember the velocity and which notes I actually hit in what order as well. So that's what the octave range is. So that will actually focus on specific octaves. We've got this one what says panel MIDI. You may notice I click that one. So I don't actually have to wire up my MIDI keyboard. So as default, in the back end, I'm doing what's called auto routing. So when you click that button, it's actually taking the MIDI from the default IO panel and it's just passing it through. You can obviously wire this up to another MIDI port, and if that was obviously connected or playing something, you'll actually see what's happening there. And this is more for the presentation mode. This is actually intensity, and what that's to do with, again, if I was to play some keys, where am I? Oh, I need to turn it on. There we go. So I'll play some keys. This will actually make these brighter or not. It's only subtle, but obviously if I really start pushing up, you can see they're starting to fade. And then we can come back again. We have an update all, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute when we start linking some of these together, because it's to do when we've got multiples. I can actually come along, set the intensity. I might want to put it into demo mode or actually into the checker mode, and I can click update all. And if I've got several of these wired up, they'll just change them all into that particular demo mode and to the same intensity. We've got a reset button, which is quite handy. So if I was to play a chord here and now turn my MIDI off, well, there's nothing coming into this device to tell me to remove their notes, because obviously this is no longer connected to this keyboard. So obviously these notes, what we could refer to as hung MIDI notes in a way, they're just sitting there. So obviously a simple reset will actually just clear all the buffer. So let me just push that MIDI keyboard out the way, so it's not too far. We're going to need it again. As I say, the whole purpose of this device is so I don't have to use my keyboard. And what am I doing? I'm using my keyboard. So I'm going to hold my Alt key down. I'm just going to make a couple of copies. And so this one is on octave 5. I'm going to push this one up to octave number 6. Sorry, it's so small, but it does actually say octave 6 there. And we'll leave it in this mode for the moment. And obviously that one really I should have put into octave 7, but I won't touch it just for the moment. I'm just going to bring this down. So if you remember rightly last time, so let me put one, and only one of these MIDI panels need to be on. You can have it on multiple ones if you want, but seriously, you're just wasting CPU cycles. You're better off having just it on one, and it will actually talk to the others. So now, if you remember rightly, so I was playing my keys here, and this time though, when I go up, it's now playing this keyboard, because this is on octave 6. And if I set that to octave 7, which, let's quickly just scroll across. Where's my scroll bar? There it is. Let's quickly move that up to octave 7. Wrong screen. God, so I was just sort of trying to do something octave 7. So there's my octave 7 there. You can see what's going on. And of course, if I wait a long time and then hit another key, let's hit that key there, you better see it. You can see it's obviously it's waiting and it still keep counting. And the way this resets itself is, well, you let go. So there's no MIDI going into it. It's now reset the counter back. So it's like an auto reset. So every time you take your hand off, it auto resets back to 0. If you leave one finger on, no matter where it is, you're going to see it. So it's always going to start counting up. It's going to go higher and higher and higher. But as I said, it doesn't matter which one, even though this might have the MIDI panel in, or I might have a MIDI cable plugged into there or into this one here. I can come along here and say, oh, actually, I'm going to change the intensity to what I actually want it to be. And I might say, oh, actually, I'm going to put that into demo mode. And I can click an update all, and it's now going to update the other ones as well. And if you notice, it's actually changed all the intensities there as well. So I might say, actually, no, I want it that. And it catches. Now you may notice there's a slight lag when this happens. So I might say, let's go there, click update all, and there's just a slight lag. I could do it so it's more instantaneous, but it's the way I'm polling in the background, and I do less polling. It's better for your systems, basically, at the end of the day. So I think I kind of covered everything. We've got the PoohBear channels to say, so obviously this is now on a separate channel, so anything I'm playing on the keyboard is not going to come into this one here because this has only got the panel MIDI in. Don't set up the MIDI panels on multiple devices on different channels because it won't work, because one will actually steal the MIDI messages from the other, so it'll never get into the other's queues. It's the same with the MIDI cables as well. Do not wire up MIDI cables to multiple devices on different channels, as I said, because it just still notes, so one will appear to play and the other one won't appear to play. And so in this final shot, you can actually see I've got several set up, all point to their separate octave. We've only had to wire up one, and off we go. And it's playing a MIDI file, which is coming through here. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.